Elias Turner had seen many travelers pass through the dusty little town near his ranch, but he had never seen someone like the young Apache woman who appeared on that cold evening. She came slowly along the dirt road, her steps soft, her shoulders tense, and her eyes lowered as if she did not want anyone to notice her. Her clothes were travel-worn, her hair was tangled from days in the wind, and she carried only a small bundle tied with an old piece of fabric. Most people in town watched her for a moment and then looked away. Not out of cruelty, but out of the silent distance that often existed between settlers and native people. No one approached her or asked her where she came from. She simply walked past the general store and sat beside an abandoned shed near the edge of town, where she could keep her back against the wall and her face away from passing eyes. Elias noticed her as he rode in with a sack of grain balanced across his horse's saddle. He was used to quiet people, and he knew the look of someone trying very hard not to be seen. He slowed his horse and watched her for a moment, just long enough to see her hands trembling slightly as she tucked her blanket around herself. Something in her posture, small, tense, tired, made his heart twist with concern. She looked like she had nowhere to go, and no one waiting for her. After tying his horse by the hitching post, he walked toward her, taking slow steps so he would not startle her. "Ma'am," he said softly, keeping his hands visible so she would know he came in peace. "Are you all right? Do you need water?" The woman lifted her eyes only halfway and then dropped them again. She didn't answer. Elias crouched a little, keeping a respectful distance. He could see now that her face was drawn from lack of rest, and her lips were dry. She looked young, but her expression carried an old sadness, the kind that did not come from one bad day, but from many long months of hardship. "My name's Elias Turner," he said gently. "I don't mean to bother you, just thought you might need something warm to drink." Still, she said nothing. Her silence was not unfriendly. It felt more like fear, like someone who had learned that speaking often led to trouble. Elias did not push her. Instead, he placed a small leather water pouch on the ground in front of her and stepped back. Then he nodded and walked away, hoping she might take it after he left. When he returned a few minutes later, she had taken the pouch but kept it close to her body as if she was afraid someone would accuse her of stealing. Elias offered her a small loaf of cornbread from his saddlebag. She looked at it for a moment, her eyes flickering with conflict, hunger on one side, hesitation on the other. Then she shook her head slightly. "It's all right," Elias said. "It's yours, if you want it. No charge." Her voice finally came, quiet as a whisper. "I don't want trouble." "No trouble," he assured her. "Just food. That's all." She hesitated again, then reached out slowly and took the cornbread. "Thank you," she whispered. The sun dipped behind the hills, and the wind grew sharper. Elias looked toward the dark clouds forming in the distance. A storm was coming, and it would be a rough one. He turned back to the woman. "You have a place to stay for the night?" he asked. She shook her head. "I don't stay," she murmured. "I move on." "Not in this weather," Elias said gently. "Storm's coming fast." She lowered her gaze again. "I'll leave by morning. I don't want to cause trouble for anyone. I'm only a burden." The words were spoken so softly that Elias almost missed them. But when he heard them, something in his chest tightened. No one, he thought, should feel like a burden for simply existing. But he understood she believed it deeply, as if she had repeated it to herself many times. "You're not a burden," he said quietly, but she did not react. She seemed to believe her own sentence far more than she believed his. As night settled, the wind sliced through the town like a blade. Elias made one last stop at the general store before heading home. But when he passed by the old shed again, he saw the woman hugging her thin blanket, trying to keep warm. He could not leave her there, not with the storm rolling in and the temperature dropping fast. "Ma'am," he said gently as he approached her again. "I've got a warm stable down the road. Clean hay, a roof, and no one will bother you. You'd be safer there than out in this wind. She looked torn. Trust did not come easily to her. I don't want to stay anywhere, she whispered. I don't stay for long. It's just for the night, Elias said. Nothing more. You don't owe me anything. Her breath shook, not from fear but from the cold. Elias helped her stand, but she kept her distance, walking a few steps behind him, as if she did not want anyone to think they were together. The stable was warm from the horse's breath, and the lantern Elias lit. He grabbed a clean blanket and laid it on a stack of hay in the corner, making a small place for her. She sat down quietly, pulling her thin blanket over her legs. When Elias handed her the warm one, she hesitated again, before accepting it with soft gratitude in her eyes. Safe here, he said. You can rest. I'll be nearby. She nodded once. When the storm hit, rain hammered the roof and wind howled through the cracks. The horses shifted uneasily, but the woman did not move. She sat still, listening, her face unreadable, but her body finally feeling warmth for the first time in days. Elias sat on an overturned bucket a few feet away. He didn't speak because he sensed she didn't want questions. Instead, he made sure the lantern stayed lit so she wouldn't feel alone in the dark. After a while, she looked at him. Really looked at him. You don't have to watch me, she said softly. I know, he replied, but I don't want you to feel like you're alone. Her eyes softened, but only for a moment. Then she looked away again. Hours passed, and the storm grew fiercer. Lightning flashed through the gaps in the stable door. The woman flinched, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. Elias gently closed the stable door more securely and moved another bale of hay to block the cold wind. As he worked, she watched him carefully, as if trying to understand why he was doing so much for someone he didn't know. Why are you kind to me? She asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias paused. Because you look like you've had too many days without kindness. She looked down at her hands. Her fingers were thin, calloused from long travel. For a moment she seemed like she wanted to say something else, but then she closed her lips and let silence return. When the storm started to fade, Elias offered her more food, but she shook her head. You've already given enough. It's nothing, he said. But she didn't believe that either. Finally, she spoke again. I'll leave by morning. I won't trouble you. Morning's a long way off, Elias said. Just rest tonight. She lay down on the hay, wrapping the warm blanket around her tightly. Her eyes drifted closed, and her breathing slowly eased into something calm. Elias sat quietly, watching the lantern flame dance. He wondered who she was, where she had come from, and what had happened to make her believe she was a burden to the world. But he knew better than to ask. She would tell him when she was ready if she ever was. What mattered now was that she was safe, warm, and no longer alone in the storm. And for tonight, that was enough. The morning came quietly after the long night of the storm. Soft light filtered through the cracks in the stable walls, touching the hay, the horses, and the blanket lying gently over the young Apache woman. Elias had fallen asleep sitting against a wooden beam, his hat pushed forward over his face. He had not meant to sleep, but he had stayed awake most of the night, making sure she was safe and warm. When the horses stirred, he opened his eyes and saw her sitting upright already, her blanket neatly folded in her lap. She looked different in the morning light, still tired, still guarded, but calmer than the day before. Her dark eyes carried a quiet strength that had been hidden behind fear when he first found her. She was awake, alert, and ready to leave. Morning, Elias said softly, lifting his hat from his eyes. She nodded. Thank you for the shelter, she said, her voice steady but low. I will go now. He knew those words were coming. She had warned him the night before, but seeing her stand, bundle in hand, made a knot form in his chest. You don't have to rush off, he said. Have something to eat first. She shook her head gently. You've already done too much. I don't want to be in your way. You're not in my way, he said. Not even a little. She hesitated, and that hesitation gave Elias enough time to take a step toward the small table near the stable wall. He picked up a tin plate of warm biscuits he had brought earlier. He held them out to her with a patient look. You have a long road ahead if you plan on walking, he said. You should eat something. She looked at the food, then at him, then back at the food. Hunger and habit fought inside her. Habit, the part of her that believed she should take nothing from anyone. Almost won. But the hunger in her eyes softened her resistance, and she took a biscuit slowly. She did not eat quickly. She ate in small bites, her movements careful and polite. Elias watched her with quiet relief. When she finished, she set the plate down neatly, as if afraid of leaving any sign of trouble behind. My name is Nalin, she said suddenly, in a soft voice, as if offering a piece of herself she had held tightly guarded. Elias nodded. It's good to finally know your name. She lowered her eyes again, unsure how to respond to kindness. Thank you for last night, she said. I'll be on my way now. But before she could step outside the stable, the sound of men's voices traveled from the ranch yard. A couple of ranch hands were arguing over a stubborn horse. Nalin paused, pressing herself slightly against the stable wall, unsure if she should pass by them. They won't bother you, Elias said. They're loud sometimes, but they're good men. Still, he could see she was afraid of attention, afraid of judgment, afraid of walking into a space where she did not belong. So he walked out first, giving her room to follow only if she wanted. When she eventually stepped outside, the ranch hands lifted their heads. Their eyes widened in surprise when they saw her. But they didn't say anything rude. They simply returned to their work after a quick greeting to Elias. Nalin kept her gaze low and walked past them quietly. Elias followed her, not wanting her to walk out alone, without at least knowing she was safe. The ranch house stood nearby, smoke rising from the chimney. As Nalin reached the fence, she stopped suddenly. In the open corral, a young horse kicked and spun, frightened from the night's storm. One of the ranch hands tried to calm it, but the horse only reared higher, stamping the ground and snorting. Nalin watched for a moment. Then she stepped forward, forgetting for a second that she meant to leave. Something in her expression changed. Her fear faded, replaced by certainty. Elias noticed and slowed his steps, observing her carefully. She slipped into the corral through the gate, her movements light and respectful. The ranch hand shouted a warning, thinking she might get hurt, but Elias held up a hand to stop him. Let her. The horse tossed its head and snorted, muscles tight with distress. But Nalin did not rush or raise her voice. She whispered something in her native language, her tone soft as a lullaby. The horse's ears twitched. She stepped closer, hand extended, palm steady, her manner full of quiet peace. Slowly, impossibly, the horse stilled. Its breathing softened. Nalin gently touched its neck, speaking to it the way someone would speak to an old friend. The ranch hands stared in disbelief. Elias felt awe rise in his chest. There's a gift in her, one man whispered. When Nalin left the corral, the ranch hands nodded to her with new respect, but she still kept her eyes lowered, uncomfortable with attention. You have a way with animals, Elias said softly. She shrugged lightly. It's nothing. It's not nothing, he said. That horse nearly sent 2 men running. Nalin tightened her bundle around her shoulders. I should go, she said again, though her voice sounded less certain now. Where will you go? She shook her head, her eyes growing distant. I don't know. I go where the road leads. That sounds lonely. It is better than staying where I am not wanted, she answered quietly. Elias felt those words sink deep inside him. Something inside him urged him to stop her, not because he wanted to keep her for himself, but because he could see She was someone who had lived too long without a place she could trust. But he knew she would not stay for kindness alone, so he chose a different path. "If you want," he began, "you can rest in the house for a little. Have a warm meal. No obligation. No need to explain anything. Just rest." She hesitated again. She looked toward the long road, stretching out of the ranch. Then she looked back at the ranch house, with its warm windows and quiet smoke drifting into the morning sky. Finally, she gave a small nod. Inside the house, she stepped carefully, almost like she feared she might break something. Elias showed her a seat near the table, but she stood instead, holding her bundle close. He didn't pressure her. He simply prepared simple breakfast eggs, beans, and warm bread. He set the plate in front of her and stepped back. Only when he gave her space did she sit and eat. Elias noticed she took small bites, as if saving some for later, even though she had nowhere to store it. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." "You're welcome." Silence stretched between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people learning to trust each other in slow steps. After a while, Elias went outside to tend the horses, giving her time alone in the warm house. As he worked, he kept glancing toward the open doorway. After several minutes, he saw her appear again. She looked calmer now, her shoulders less tense. But her bundle was in her hands again, and he knew she had decided to leave. "I will not stay," she said softly when he approached. "This place is peaceful. You are kind. The men are respectful. But I have no place in this world. I only trouble people. It is better I go." "Nalin," Elias said gently, "you don't trouble me." She looked away. "You will. Everyone does. It is better to leave before that happens." Her words were filled with old wounds, not anger. Elias understood her fear. She had been pushed away, judged, and made to feel small many times before. It wasn't him she was protecting herself from the pain she expected to come. "If you truly want to leave," he said quietly. Nalin did not answer. Her eyes shimmered with emotions she could not express. She turned toward the road again, her small bundle held tightly, her steps slow but determined. But she did not walk far. She stopped at the gate, her fingers curling around the wooden post. She looked back at the ranch, the warm house, the calm horses, the man who had treated her with gentle respect. Her breath trembled. Finally, she whispered, "I will stay. One day. More." Elias smiled softly. "One day is enough." She stepped back inside the gate, and something small but important shifted inside her. For the first time in a long while, Nalin allowed herself not to run. That one small step was the beginning of everything that would follow. The sun rose slowly over the wide grasslands the next morning, brushing the ranch with soft gold light. Nalin had agreed to stay only one more day, and Elias respected her decision. Even though he hoped quietly she might stay longer, he did not show that hope, because he knew pressure would make her run. Instead, he acted calmly, as if her presence was a natural part of the ranch and not something fragile that could slip away at any moment. When he stepped outside the house, he found her already awake, standing near the fence, with her hands folded quietly in front of her. She was watching the horses as they moved across the corral, her eyes thoughtful, her posture calm. The early breeze lifted some strands of her hair, and she did not brush them away. She seemed lost in the peaceful moment. "You're up early," Elias said gently. She nodded without looking at him. "I don't sleep long." Too many dark nights behind you?" he asked, softly. She didn't answer right away, but her shoulders lowered just a little. "I learned not to sleep deeply," she said. "Sometimes, when I slept, things changed around me. It was safer to stay alert." "You're safe here," Elias said, his voice slow and steady. "I know," she whispered, "but my body doesn't know yet." He understood that. Trust was not a switch someone could flip. It was built slowly, like placing stones one by one. She had placed one stone by staying the extra day. He didn't want her to knock it down by feeling pressured. "Would you like to join me for the morning rounds?" he asked. "Just simple chores. Nothing heavy." She hesitated, then nodded once. Together they walked across the ranch yard. Elias talked gently, explaining small things, but not too much. He sensed she preferred silence, but also appreciated calm company. When they reached the barn, the horses moved closer, not afraid of her. She touched their necks one by one, whispering soft sounds that Elias didn't understand but felt soothed just hearing. The ranch hands noticed her too. They didn't speak loudly like before. Now, they watched her with quiet respect. One of them, an older man named Carlton, tipped his hat and said, "Morning, miss," with a gentle smile. She gave a small nod back. As they worked through the chores, Elias kept noticing how naturally she moved. She didn't rush. She didn't force anything. She always remained calm, even around the horses that were still nervous from the storm. She carried buckets with balance, brushed the dust off saddles, and arranged tools neatly without being asked. "You do this like you've been on a ranch all your life," Elias said, handing her a soft brush to groom a mare. She shrugged. "Where I grew up, we cared for animals every day. They are friends, not things to use." He nodded. "That's how I see them too." For the first time, she looked directly at him with something clear in her eyes' recognition. A piece of herself that she kept hidden touched the surface. Then, she looked away again, almost shyly. Later in the morning, they took a break near the old oak tree behind the barn. Elias sat on a wooden crate, while Nalin remained standing at first. He noticed she never sat unless she was told she could. Perhaps she had been places where sitting near others was not allowed. "You can sit if you want," he said gently, tapping the crate beside him. She hesitated, then sat on the ground instead, a little distance away. Elias didn't try to change her mind. He understood that she chose spots where she felt safe, and he respected that. After a few quiet minutes, she spoke softly. "You asked yesterday where I will go." "I remember," Elias said. "I have no answer," she admitted. "For a long time, I moved from place to place. Sometimes people offered help, but it never lasted. I didn't want them to feel responsible for me." "You don't make people responsible," Elias said gently. "You give them a chance to care. There's a difference." She lowered her gaze. "I don't know how to accept kindness without feeling like I'm taking too much." "Then let it be simple," he said. "You help around the ranch. You give your time and your skills. That's worth more than anything I offer you." She looked at her hands, thoughtful. "I don't know." Later in the day, while Elias fixed a broken fence, Nalin helped gather fallen branches from the previous night's storm. A sudden sound made her freeze a sharp crack from the far side of the fence line. Elias noticed her body tense, her breath shorten. She crouched low, as if expecting danger. "It's all right," Elias said softly, stepping toward her. That was just a branch, snapping under its own weight. But she did not relax. He approached slowly, making sure she saw him. "You don't have to be afraid." Bravierly. Her voice came in a whisper. "Old memories. Are you hurt by them now?" he asked gently. "No," she said, "but they hold me tightly." Elias slowly offered his hand not to take hers, but to show calm. "You can breathe here. Nothing is chasing you." She inhaled shakily, then exhaled slowly, releasing some of the fear. He didn't touch her. He simply stood beside her, letting her know she wasn't alone. By afternoon, the air warmed, and the ranch felt peaceful. Nalin prepared to leave again. She had said she would stay only one day. She folded her small blanket, tied her bundle tightly, and stood at the edge of the porch with her eyes down. Elias came up behind her quietly. "You're leaving?" She nodded. "I said one day. I don't want to stay longer and make it harder later." "Harder for who?" he asked. "For you," she whispered. "For me?" He couldn't help a soft smile. "You think your presence makes my life harder?" She nodded again, her voice trembling. "People don't keep others like me near them. They help for a moment. Then they say it's time to go. I want to leave before anyone says that to me." Elias took a slow breath. He understood now. She wasn't trying to leave because she wanted to. She was leaving so she wouldn't feel unwanted later. The pain of being pushed away was stronger than the comfort she felt staying. "Nalin," he said, his voice steady as a still river. "Do you know what the men told me this morning?" She looked up slightly, her eyes curious. "They said you brought peace to the ranch. They said the horses calmed in your hands. They said you worked hard with no complaint." Elias paused, letting his words sink in. "No one here wants you gone." Tears touched the corner of her eyes, surprising even herself. She blinked them away quickly. "I don't understand why." "You don't have to understand it," Elias said softly. "Just accept it. You're not a burden. You're not trouble. You make this place better." She looked at him for a long time. He didn't push. He didn't reach for her. He simply stood there, offering honesty without pressure. Finally, she spoke in a trembling voice. "If I stay, maybe only for a little longer, would that be all right?" Elias felt something warm break open inside him. It would be more than all right. Tenger, 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 Tenger. She lowered her gaze, but a small, peaceful breath escaped her lips. "Then I will stay. For now. For now is enough," Elias said gently. That evening, Nalin helped cook supper, moving quietly around the kitchen with soft steps. She set the table carefully, folding the cloth napkins with neat precision. Elias watched her from the doorway. She belonged in that warm kitchen more than she knew. After dinner, they walked outside. The sky was full of stars, shining brighter than the night before. Nalin looked up silently, taking slow breaths, letting the cool air wash over her. "I haven't looked at the stars in a long time," she whispered. "Why not?" Elias asked. "I was always moving," she said. "Never felt safe enough to stop and look. Do you feel safe now?" She didn't answer quickly. She looked at him, then at the ranch, then at the sky again. Finally, she nodded very softly. "A little," she said. "That's enough for today," Elias said. She gave a small smile, just a tiny one, but it was real. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. And Elias, standing beside her in the cool night air, felt something shift inside him too. He wanted her to stay, not because she needed help, but because she brought a kind of quiet strength he had never known. A strength that made the ranch feel whole. The days that followed passed more gently than Nalin expected. Each morning she woke before sunrise, stepping quietly into the ranch yard where the air was cool and fresh. She helped with chores without being asked, moving with the same calm and careful rhythm she carried everywhere. The ranch hands greeted her with polite nods now, their tones softer than before. When she walked by, they made room for her not out of pity, but out of respect. Nalin was still shy around them, but she no longer kept her eyes fully lowered. She was beginning, little by little, to feel like she was not invisible. Elias watched this slow change from a respectful distance. He never crowded her with questions, or tried to pull her into conversations she didn't want. He simply included her in everything naturally, as if she had always been part of the ranch. If he went to check the fence lines, he asked if she wanted to come. If he loaded hay onto the wagon, he made sure there was a smaller bundle she could lift without strain. When she cooked or cleaned, he quietly offered to help. Not to take over, but to share the work. In this gentle way, he made it clear she was not alone. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the land with warm orange light, Nalin sat outside the barn with a small basket of seeds in her lap. She had found the old seed pouch in a forgotten drawer earlier that day and had asked Elias if she could sort them. He agreed instantly, happy to see her interested in anything that made her feel grounded. As she sifted through the seeds, she began humming a soft tune, a song that came from memories long buried. Her voice was light, almost too soft to hear, but it carried something peaceful with it. Elias, who was nearby mending a saddle strap, paused when he heard her. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, letting the simple melody drift across the quiet ranch yard like a warm breeze. When she finished, she looked down shyly, realizing he had heard. "It is an old song," she said in a low voice. "From my family. Aprana." "It's beautiful," Elias said. "You should sing whenever you want." She shook her head gently. "I haven't sung in a long time. I didn't have a place where it felt safe." "Well," Elias said with a soft smile, "you're safe here." Nalin looked away, but a hint of warmth touched her expression. Later that night, after the stars had risen high above them, Elias saw her sitting by the wooden fence, staring quietly at the sky. He approached slowly, so she wouldn't feel startled. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Too many thoughts." "Good thoughts or heavy ones?" "Both, I think," she admitted. He leaned on the fence beside her, keeping a comfortable distance. "You can tell me if you want." She took a long breath, gathering courage. I didn't think I would feel peace again. I thought my life would always be moving, always running from place to place, always feeling like I didn't belong anywhere." "You belong here," Elias said gently. She looked at him, then really looked at him. Her eyes were dark, pools touched with uncertainty, hope, and fear, all at once. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you think that?" "Because of the way the ranch feels with you here," he said. "Because the mornings feel quiet in a good way. Because the horses trust you faster than they trust anyone else. Because you bring something steady to this place, even if you don't see it." Her chest rose and fell with a trembling breath. "I don't know if I can accept that." "You don't have to accept it all at once," he said. "Just accept a small part of it today. Tomorrow, you can accept a little more." She smiled faintly, the corner of her mouth tilting up. "You make things sound simple." "No, that's because life should be simple," Elias said. "People make it complicated." Over the next weeks, their quiet companionship grew naturally. Nalin learned how to repair fences with wire and pliers. She learned how to saddle the horses the way Elias preferred. She helped in the garden behind the house, clearing out old weeds and making space for new life to grow. Elias often found her kneeling in the dirt, with her hands deep in the soil, planting small seeds she had sorted earlier. She was gentle with the earth, patient with every sprout. "You're building something," Elias said one afternoon as he looked at the new garden rows. "Maybe," she said softly. "Or maybe the earth is building me." Every evening they shared supper together at the kitchen table. At first, Nalin ate quietly and quickly, still not used to sitting in someone else's home. But as time passed, she slowed down. She tasted her food instead of swallowing it fast. She took second servings when Elias offered. And sometimes, she even asked questions about ranch life, questions she would never have dared to ask at the beginning. Elias saw this all happening like a sunrise, slow but bright. One chilly morning, after many days had passed peacefully, Nalin woke before dawn and stepped outside to watch the sky. The ranch was quiet, still wrapped in the last shadows of the night. Elias joined her a few minutes later, drawing on his boots, as he walked across the porch. "You're up early again," he said, smiling gently. "I like the morning," she said. "It feels like a new start." "It is," Elias replied. Every day is a new chance. She was quiet for a moment before she spoke again. I used to start my mornings running from something. Now I start them with work. With calm. She lowered her voice. I never thought I would have a place where I didn't fear the sunrise. Elias's heart tightened with quiet emotion. You earned that peace, Nalin. It's yours. She nodded, though she still looked unsure how to accept such a gift. Later that day, they walked along the fence line together, checking for weak posts. The breeze carried the soft scent of grass, and the sound of cattle echoed from the far pasture. At one point, Nalin stopped and placed her hand on the top of a fence post, her fingers tracing the old wood. Elias, she said. Yes? I want to tell you something. Something I've been holding. He stepped closer but still kept space, giving her room. I'm listening. I said I would stay for one day, she said slowly. Then, I stayed another day. And another. I told myself every night that I would leave in the morning. But, she paused, swallowing softly. I don't want to leave now. Elias felt warmth swell inside him, steady and strong. He waited for her to continue. I was afraid, she said. Afraid of trusting, afraid of losing a place again. But here, I found something I didn't expect. I found quiet. I found purpose. And, she looked at him, her eyes shining with emotion. I found someone who sees me. Elias's voice softened. She breathed out slowly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in what felt like years. Then, if you'll have me, I want to stay. You don't even have to ask, Elias said. This is your home as long as you want it to be. A small, bright smile appeared on her face, one that reached her eyes. In the days that followed, Nalin began planting the new garden near the back of the house. Each seed she placed in the soil felt like a promise to the future. The ranch hands often passed by quietly, watching her work with gentle respect. They even helped her bring water buckets and tools, without her asking. One evening, Elias found her kneeling by the garden, smoothing the soil around a row of new sprouts. The golden sunset behind her made her look peaceful, grounded, whole. When she noticed him, she brushed the dirt from her hands and stood slowly. You've made something beautiful here, he said. I didn't know if anything I planted would grow, she admitted, but the earth accepted the seeds. And the ranch accepted you, Elias added. She looked into his eyes, and in that look there was trust, gratitude, and quiet affection. I'm glad I stayed, she whispered. I'm glad you stayed too, Elias said. This place, and I, would have been missing something without you. Nalin breathed deeply, letting the evening air fill her lungs. She felt the truth inside his words, not as a burden, not as a responsibility, but as something warm and real. The ranch was her new beginning. As the last light of the day faded, she walked toward the house beside Elias, the earth soft beneath her feet. Her heart lighter than it had been in years. She had come to the ranch believing she was a burden, someone unwanted, someone meant to disappear before the sun rose. But now, standing in a place where she was valued, respected, and finally seen, she understood something she had never believed before. She was not a burden. She was a blessing. And she had finally found a home.